And so rhythm and blues, R&B was my first love. And when I was in the early part of my career, I was playing with a lot of people who are icons now. I mean, on the show with these people like Jackie Wilson and Junior Walker and the All-Stars and all these people that, you know, Arthur Conley, different ones. So here I was in the middle of this very rich, you know, musical era of rhythm and blues. But then, you know, I became interested in rock music, you know, at the advent of listening to a Jimi Hendrix record and realized something different's going on here. There's a revolution happening in music, and so I became interested in that and eventually transitioned into more of a rock music genre.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and find out how Howard transitioned from music into Heartmath. And it was, you know, and then that strange way music moves the soul and the heart, doesn't it?
Yes, it sure does.
And it's just interesting that you then went to Heartmath, which is also about that soul and heart aspect, just a slightly different level.
That's right. We'll be back.
We will indeed. Welcome back, and we're talking with Howard Martin from Heartmath. Now, Howard, before the break, we were talking about your music.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you discussed with me earlier today is that you were one of that small percentage of musicians that actually made a living out of music.
That's true.
Yeah?
And it was, you know, you make money in the music business, you never keep it. You know, you buy things with it, you buy clothes, you buy some cars, you buy some things like that. And it had its ups and downs, that's for sure. I can't say that I was wealthy because of it, but I actually did make a living for over 10 years doing it, and doing it pretty much the way I wanted to do it.
Okay. And then you were saying that at 31, having been in the music industry for around 10 years, and also having been working, studying, being mentored by Doc Childers, Heartmath founder for 10 years, you had a major life change. What brought that upon?
Well, you know, I have these thoughts. I mean, I was pursuing my own personal growth, my own interests, my own spiritual growth was a part of what I was also doing during that time period. And over time, I started sensing a conflict. You know, my values and my lifestyle were not in alignment at all. The music business was very stimulating. It was exciting. It was challenging. It wasn't all a bed of roses, but it was always interesting, at least. And I would have thoughts. My own inner dialogue would be questioning what I was doing with my life. And I started having feelings about how self-centered it really was, how all the attention was on me, you know, what was I really giving back? And I could rationalize, you know, that I was entertaining people, that I was doing something through the music and all that. And I'm not saying that I wasn't, but I knew there had to be something more, and I didn't want to face that. I mean, why would you want to walk away from the only life you know, and one that's not bad, and one you're seeing potential for good success in? But the inner dialogue became loud enough that I finally had to pay attention to it. And some business things led up to a decision point. There was a point in my musical career when I had to make some choices. And at that time, I finally went deep enough within myself, and Doc Childry helped me a lot through this process of really coming to a realization that I needed to get away from music, and I needed to see what else life could offer, and that there would be maybe a different road for me. But it was an unknown road. There was no assurances about what I would do or where I would go or what I would do next. It was actually kind of scary.
Jumping into the void. Before we jump into that void, you also had been married in that time that you...
Well, right after the music business is when I got married the first time, to a woman who was much younger than me. And she was a wonderful, wonderful person and all that, but it was just wasn't quite right. I mean, there was an age difference and an interest level difference. And when I got out of the music business, I got really serious about my own personal growth. That became the focal point of everything for me. And it was really, to me, putting first things first, making that the priority in life. The career, whatever about the career, I'd find a way to make a living. But I didn't get out of the music business to pursue some other career. I got out of the music business so I could really find out more about who I really was.
Yeah, and there was a time that you were unemployed and getting a bit skint on money?
Absolutely. When you get out, the worst thing that can happen to a musician is having to go out and get a job. It's like, you never want to have to do that. And so you put it off as long as you can, but when they finally start, when you finally can't make the payments on the Porsche and when you're running out of money and you have to sort of look yourself in the eye and say, well, what are you going to do about this? You're not going to go back in the music business. You're going to have to do something else. But what,
And so over the next 10 years, I think you were saying you had something like about 3 or 4 different jobs?
I sure did.
Can you just briefly just say what each of the titles were? Because that sort of gave you the background to prepare you for what you do now in Heartmath,
Yes,
doesn't it?
some of it did. I mean, the first job I had was working at minimum wage in a health food store in a mall. Mm-hmm. And you talk about terrifying. I mean, when I went into that mall that first day to start my job, I had this little clip-on string tie on and everything, and and the manager came to me and he said, "Here's your job today. You have to stand in front of the store with this little bucket of sunflower seeds and this little pink spoon. And when people come through the mall, you need to say, 'Hi, would you like to try our zesty sunflower seeds?'" And I started having these thoughts like, "Oh my God, this is way worse than I ever thought it would be." 2 weeks ago, I'm up on the stage. There's lights, there's smoke, there's excitement, and now I'm standing in front of this health food store with this little bucket of seeds and a pink spoon. And I remember having sweat just pouring down my face. It was worse than any stage fright I'd ever had. And I had these thoughts like, I was listening to my heart when I made this decision, but I'm not sure I'll ever listen to it again if it's going to be like this. It was a big shock. It was such a drastic change, but it took out big chunks of my own vanity, my own ego. I mean, I had to finally surrender to that whole thing over time and just get on into what I needed to do next.
And you became manager of that health food store in the end?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had a couple of other positions, were management positions or account executive positions?
I went in the insurance business,
yeah.
And then I became a manager and a top producer in the insurance company, and then I left that and I went to work for a brokerage firm, E.F. Hutton, and did well there. And then I realized that at E.F. Hutton that the only thing that anybody ever talked about was money. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing, the only conversation you ever had with any of your coworkers was all about money. And I felt like, what if you traded the music business for? You were pursuing something that you felt was more meaningful than that, and now it's all about the money. And it didn't make sense to me, so I left that, and I went to work for some friends who had a company doing something I felt was worthwhile. They were raising money for volunteer emergency service organizations, the rescue squads and the fire departments, that took care of people. And so I went in the position there of raising money for those type of organizations.
Okay, and you were about 6 years with them? Was that the one?
Yes, 6 years with them. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then what led to you to finish that one and you moved into Heartmath?
Well, Doc Childry and myself and a group of other friends had stayed really close and really tight for a long, long time. And we were really in a self-exploration process, really going deeper than ourselves, really trying to understand what can make us better people. What were the correlates of human performance? How did you really improve all that? How did you improve your awareness? How did you improve your care for others? All these things. And we worked hard on that. And that's what I was really about. The career, whatever. I mean, I worked somewhere, but all my other time was spent in that kind of an endeavor. And we didn't write anything down. We didn't call it anything. We didn't promote anything. We were in eastern North Carolina, which is a very rural area of the United States. There was no other people around doing this sort of work. But yet we attracted people. And Doc...
Why do you think you did?
I don't really know how to exactly explain it. I would just say that, with Doc Childry, he's always been a man who puts that first before everything else. Never about the ambition, never about, that sort of thing. It's always about, you do the inner work and the rest will come, And we were doing some pretty serious inner work. And we'd meet people here and there, and they'd tell somebody else, and the next thing you know, there'd be people around. And we met different people around the country and some people in California that we really resonated with, and they really liked what we were doing. They had another company of a different kind, a nutritional supplement business, and they became very interested in what Doc was saying and what we were manifesting from all that. And so after a long dialogue of 2 or 3 years, and Doc stepping back and assessing timing on everything, he decided it was time to form an organization to disseminate information about what we had learned.